It's great to be here this morning on this beautiful day. Wonderful weather. Thank you so much for arranging this, Madam President. We appreciate that. And I'm Mariana Propolis, President of the Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. And with me today are some of my colleagues. We have our Vice President, Barbara McGowan, Commissioner Deborah Shore, Commissioner Martin Durkin, Commissioner Frank Avila, Chairman of Finance. And we have the Village President, Beverly Sussman. Everybody knows Beverly. And it's great to be here today. We have the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Commander Colonel Aaron Reisinger. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay. And Buffalo Grove Village President, we said. Welcome to our friends from the Village of Buffalo Grove, Village Clerk Janet Sarabian. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I have complete sympathy for names like that because Propolis, you can imagine I've had all kinds of versions of that in my lifetime. Trustee Jeffrey Berman, Trustee Andrew Stein, Trustee Lester Ottenheimer III, Trustee David Weidenfeld, Trustee Joanne Johnson, Trustee Eric Smith, and Michael J. Reynolds, Buffalo Grove Director of Public Works. And from the Lake County Forest Preserve District, we have Executive Director Ty Kovach and Randy Seebeck, the Director of Planning, Conservation, and Development. And from the Village of Wheeling, we have Wheeling Village Manager John Svandilis. The contractor is Lakeshore Grading, and with us today are Rich Keller, Jace Dietz, and Don Anderson. We're here today to mark the beginning of construction on the Buffalo Creek Reservoir expansion, a project that is almost 50 years in the making. In 1973, the MWRD, the Lake County Forest Preserve District, and the Village of Buffalo Grove entered into an agreement to acquire land and construct the original Buffalo Creek Reservoir. The project was intended to provide flood protection for the rapidly developing communities of Buffalo Grove and Wheeling. The original reservoir construction was completed by 1983, and the volume of the reservoir was expanded in 1988. And in 2011, the district published a study identifying projects that could reduce flooding within the lower Desplaines River watershed. One such project was a further expansion of the Buffalo Creek Reservoir, intended to reduce flooding along Buffalo Creek as well as along the main stem of the Desplaines River. However, our friends to the north reached out to us with a planned improvement project of their own that allowed the district to begin design of the project. And since the Lake County Forest Preserve District was already planning work to expand trails and parking at the preserve, the agencies agreed to work together to construct the public access improvements while incorporating MWRD's planned reservoir expansion. So through a collaborative process and in partnership with the Village of Buffalo Grove, the design combined the public access improvements, enhancement of the preserve's natural features, and expansion of the reservoir's volume. The additional storage will reduce future flood damage by $26 million. An estimated 107 structures will be protected from various flood reoccurrences, and over 2,000 structures along Buffalo Creek and the main stem Desplaines River will receive some form of flood reduction benefit. The final reservoir design was completed last year, and the list of improvements are pretty impressive. Excavation of over 300,000 cubic yards of material will create an additional 58.6 million gallons of flood storage capacity. There will be 7 wooden pedestrian boardwalks and over 2 miles of new or raised multi-use trails. A 30-space parking lot expansion, 2 pedestrian overlooks, 850 new trees, and 200 shrubs. New and restored wetlands, upland prairie restoration west of Schaefer Road, stream restoration of Buffalo Creek main stem and the west unnamed tributary, and new grade control structure to stabilize Buffalo Creek Tributary A as it enters the reservoir from Lake Cook Road. Lake County Grading Company will construct this project, and we expect it to be completed in about 2 years. We look forward to seeing you all back here at that time for the ribbon cutting. So we have a fantastic partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and it's always wonderful to see Colonel Reisinger. Colonel Reisinger is responsible for water resources development in the Chicago metropolitan area, an area of about 5,000 square miles with a population of more than 9 million. The Army Corps' primary mission focuses on flood risk management and storm damage reduction, navigation, environment, regulatory, emergency management, and interagency and international services. Welcome, Colonel Reisinger.
Well, good morning, Madam President. Madam President, doesn't that sound cool? Commissioners, leaders from the region, Buffalo Grove, Lake County Forest Preserve, friends, our contractors. Hey, it's really cool for me to be here today, especially the second real day of spring. This is my first winter in Chicago. I moved here in July. I wasn't sure here a few days ago how many more days of cold weather I could survive. So it's great to see this weather. It's great to be out here with you today. What's really great about being here is really I'm just a cheerleader today because the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers really isn't a part of this project. But that's okay because this just depicts the level of partnership and long-term history that we have working with MWRD, the local community, and everyone to try to benefit the local community, to try to benefit the folks. So it's a real pleasure for me to be here today to be able to talk with you, even though I don't have to be held accountable for the construction here. So it's really, that's sort of good. Hey, the Buffalo Creek Reservoir project, from our perspective, was integrated as part of a study we did in the 90s called the Desplaines 1 River Study, and it was a comprehensive look at the entire Desplaines River, and this was one of 6 structural features that we recommended to the Chief of Engineers. It was eventually approved by Congress in 1999 for us to move forward with in construction. As you all know, construction hits its fits and spurts and challenges, and we were not able to construct this project at the time for many different reasons. So it's really awesome for us to be able to see that even 20 years later, and the history you gave is a lot longer, but from our perspective, this was authorized by Congress in '99, and it's going to be great to see that even after 20 years, that perseverance can come through, and we can still benefit what work was done early on. We deeply appreciate that MWRD continued to lead this process to build some of the authorized 550 acre-foot of storage that leads us here today. This is really a good news story, despite what you'll hear in the media or people say about our government, both in the local municipalities and federal government. There's really a ton of great people who are trying to get things done for all the right reasons. And so it's just cool to be part of this team that continues to persevere through this project and many others throughout the entire Chicagoland area. And I appreciate the note about the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but it really is a partnership. It is a partnership with every single one of us. We can't, as a federal government agency, can't accomplish anything without the locals, without the local partnership that's exhibited here today. Hey, it's super important to get as much storage as we can here in the Desplaines region, so this will add to that. What many of you may not know, we also have what's called the Desplaines River Study 2 that was authorized by Congress. Additional recommendations on structural features for the Desplaines River, both from a structural flood risk mitigation perspective and an environmental restoration, ecosystem restoration perspective, all the way up into the headwaters in Wisconsin, all the way down to the western suburbs of Chicago. We really hope our federal government will fund that project and help us move forward in planning, engineering, and design. But with MWRD, we continue to try to move that forward. I just thank you again for allowing me to speak in front of you today to represent the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and to represent the partnership that we have between our federal and non-federal agencies throughout this region. And I know together through this partnership we'll be able to accomplish a lot for everyone. Thank you.
So thank you, Colonel. And I would now like to welcome our project partner from the Village of Buffalo Grove, Village President Beverly Sussman. President Sussman has been a resident of Buffalo Grove since 1971. She served as a village trustee since 2008 before becoming president in 2015. Same date as me. You could say she was a pioneer, and the population of the village when she moved here in 1971 was 12,000, and today it's 3 times as large at 48,000. Please welcome President Sussman.
I'd like to thank Anise Propolis, good pronunciation, right, for inviting me to say a few comments this morning. I'd like to thank our partners, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District and Lake County Forest Preserve District, for taking on such a beneficial project. A project I know will provide benefits well into the future. We envisioned this project for almost 50 years. My husband Marty and I have been residents in Buffalo Grove for almost 47 years. My husband and I raised 3 wonderful children and met many friends. 2 of our children still live in Buffalo Grove with their families. However, during this time, the threat of flooding was always present. And while governments at all levels have struggled to address the threats of flooding, the risk is always present. As a science teacher in Kildare School District 96, I taught my students all about the wetlands and the prairies and ecology and conservation. How wonderful that the Buffalo Creek Project will include public access improvements, enhance the preserve's nature features, and expand the reservoir's volume to mitigate area flooding, just to mention a few. This project represents a long-standing relationship and an ongoing cooperative effort between the Village of Buffalo Grove, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, and the Lake County Forest Preserve District, which began back in 1973. Through the cooperative efforts of the parties, the effects of flooding on our respective communities and regional stakeholders will be reduced. The completion of this project will further reduce the effects of flooding and provide a safe and healthy environment for many years to come. The Village of Buffalo Grove looks forward to a continued relationship between the agencies, not only on this project, but on many projects in the future. Thank you very much.
And thank you, President Sussman. Last but not least, the Village of Wheeling. We have Village Manager John Svandilis. Wheeling will be the primary beneficiary of the storm controls once this project is complete. Please welcome John.
Thank you very much. Before I get to my weather-protected prepared statement, I'd just like to add that personally I had the privilege of working with MWRD on the Levy 37 project and can attest to the positive impact that it has had for us because the amenities that came with that project, but also to the downstream effects that we are now going to be the beneficiaries of from this project that I have heard from all the communities to the south of us. So I am extremely happy and privileged to be standing here before you today. For that reason, on behalf of the Village of Wheeling, thank you, and I'm so happy that this project has finally come to fruition. I'm honored to join you today to show the Village of Wheeling's support for this significant project and to congratulate the MWRD, the Village of Buffalo Grove, and the Lake County Forest Preserve for reaching this milestone. As everyone here knows, water is notorious for disrespecting jurisdictional boundaries. Every successful flood control project, therefore, testifies to the power of cooperation and to the value of recognizing the common good. Wheeling is pleased to be among the downstream beneficiaries of these improvements and proud to be participating in this event, much as we were pleased to welcome our own downstream neighbors at the groundbreaking of Heritage Park Flood Control Facility 6 years ago. That project has brought extraordinary aesthetic and recreational benefits to our community, and I'm confident that this one will achieve similar ends. On behalf of our President and Board of Trustees, please accept the assurance that Wheeling remains strongly committed to proactive approaches to stormwater management and to productive partnerships with regional stakeholders. We look forward to the success of this undertaking. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And that wraps up the speaking portion of our program. We're going to now head over to the shovels and officially break ground on this exciting project.